The unexpected companion. I still remember that morning like it just happened yesterday. The sun was barely up, and I was rushing through the airport, dragging my suitcase behind me. My flight to Chicago had been delayed twice, and I was already stressed about the presentation I had to give the next day. My husband, Daniel, had been so supportive the night before, helping me pack, kissing me goodbye, even joking that he wished he could come along. That's why I was shocked when, 3 hours later, I saw him. I had just checked into my hotel and was standing in line for coffee in the lobby cafe when I caught a glimpse of someone who looked exactly like Daniel. Same navy jacket, same walk, same habit of rubbing his neck when he talked. At first, I thought I was imagining things. He told me he had an important client meeting back home that morning. There was no possible reason for him to be here. But then, as he turned around, I froze. It was him, my husband, and he wasn't alone. Standing right beside him was a woman, tall, elegant, with long brown hair and a familiar smile I couldn't quite place. They were laughing together, like two people who knew each other well. I ducked behind a pillar, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone around could hear it. I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence, maybe it was a client, a coworker, or even a friend from college. But as they walked hand in hand toward the elevator, I realized this wasn't a business meeting. It was something much more personal. And in that moment, my entire world started to crack. I don't know what came over me, but I followed them. My hands were trembling, and I could barely breathe. Every step I took behind Daniel and that woman made me feel like I was walking into a nightmare I didn't want to see, but couldn't turn away from. They stopped at the front desk first. I stayed behind a large potted plant, pretending to check my phone while straining to hear their conversation. "Reservation under Carter," Daniel said smoothly. My heart sank. He wasn't using his real last name. Why? Who was this man I'd been married to for 7 years? The receptionist handed them a key card, and I watched as the woman, dressed in a red silk dress that looked far too glamorous for an afternoon in a hotel lobby, smiled at him and whispered something in his ear. He laughed, touched her lower back, and they walked toward the elevator. I didn't follow them inside. I couldn't. My legs felt like they were made of stone. I just stood there, frozen, watching the elevator doors close on my husband and the woman in red. For a full minute, I couldn't move. Then the anger kicked in. I needed to know who she was. I pulled out my phone and quickly snapped a photo of them just before the doors closed, blurry, but enough to see their faces. Back in my room, I searched through every corner of my mind trying to remember where I'd seen her before. Her face was so familiar. I finally found it. Scrolling through Daniel's old Facebook photos, I saw her, smiling beside him at a company holiday party 2 years ago. The caption read, "Great night with the best project team." Her name was Emily Shaw. Daniel's assistant. The same woman he once said was, like a little sister. I felt the air leave my lungs as I realized the truth. My husband wasn't just lying about where he was. He was lying about who he was with. And that night, I decided, I was going to find out exactly what they were doing together. That night, I didn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop replaying what I had seen. Daniel's hand on her back, the way they laughed, the fake name at the front desk. I kept staring at the blurry photo on my phone, zooming in, convincing myself it couldn't be what it looked like. But deep down, I knew. By morning, my exhaustion had turned into determination. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. After my business meeting, I went down to the hotel lobby pretending to ask about late checkout. While the clerk typed on the computer, I casually leaned closer and glanced at the screen. There it was, Carter, room 712. I felt a rush of cold fury. Just 2 floors above me. That evening, around 9 p.m., I saw them again. Daniel and Emily walked through the lobby, hand in hand, like a couple on vacation. He was wearing casual clothes, not his wedding ring. My stomach twisted. I followed them quietly, keeping my distance. They got into the elevator, laughing about something, and pressed 7. I waited. A few minutes later, I took the next elevator up. My heart pounded as I stepped into the hallway. Room 712 was near the end, the door slightly ajar, soft music playing from inside. I could hear their voices, low, intimate, too comfortable to be work-related. I wanted to burst in and scream, but something held me back. Instead, I turned on my phone's voice recorder and slipped a note under the door. Greater than, you forgot who you're married to. I didn't wait for a reaction. I ran back to my room, shaking, tears streaming down my face. Half an hour later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, no one was there, but on the floor was a folded piece of paper. Inside, in Daniel's handwriting, were 3 chilling words. Greater than, we need to talk. I stared at the note for what felt like forever. We need to talk. The handwriting was unmistakable, bold, rushed, and slightly slanted, just like the way he used to write love notes on our anniversaries. But now, those same words felt like poison. I paced my room for nearly an hour before I decided to face him. My chest was tight, my palms sweaty, but I couldn't let him walk around this hotel pretending everything was normal. I needed answers. When I finally knocked on room 712, the door opened halfway. Daniel stood there, wearing a plain gray t-shirt, his face pale and eyes wide with guilt. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of the room, the rumpled bed, a wine bottle on the table, and a woman's red scarf tossed carelessly on the chair. Anna, he started, his voice trembling. Please, it's not what you think. I laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from heartbreak, not humor. Really, Daniel? Then tell me what I should think. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what it is. He rubbed his face, sighing heavily. I didn't plan for you to see this. I was going to tell you after your presentation. Tell me what? That you brought your assistant on a secret getaway and checked in under a fake name. I snapped. You think I wouldn't notice? He stepped aside and motioned for me to come in, but I stayed by the door. It's complicated, he muttered. You don't understand, Emily. I understand enough, I interrupted sharply. You lied to me. You lied to her. And now you're caught. At that moment, Emily appeared from the bathroom, wearing nothing but a robe. She froze when she saw me, her face turning white. Oh my God, she whispered. I turned to her. You knew he was married, didn't you? She didn't answer, just lowered her head, tears forming in her eyes. Daniel tried to reach for my hand. Anna, please. This wasn't supposed to happen. It started as work, but... I pulled away. Stop. Just stop lying. I don't want to hear your excuses. He looked desperate, almost panicked. If you walk away right now, you'll regret it. You don't know everything. I froze. What are you talking about? He hesitated, glancing nervously at Emily. There's something you don't know about her, something that could ruin both of us. The air in the room turned heavy. For a moment, even my anger paused, replaced by confusion. What are you hiding, Daniel? I asked slowly. Emily looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks. Anna, please don't hate me. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. Greater than, I'm not just his assistant, I'm your sister's best friend. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at her. My mind couldn't process what I'd just heard. My sister's best friend. Emily's voice trembled as she spoke again. I've been to your house before, Anna. Years ago, before you and Daniel even got married. You probably don't remember me. But I did. Slowly, like puzzle pieces snapping together, the memory hit me. I remembered a quiet, shy college girl who used to come over to study with my younger sister, Chloe. She'd sit in our kitchen, always polite, always smiling. Her name had been Emily Shaw. I felt sick. You've known my family all along, I whispered. You knew who I was, who he was, and you still did this. Emily covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't plan any of this, Anna. I swear. When I started working at Daniel's company, I didn't even realize he was your husband. It wasn't until months later that I connected the dots. By then, she trailed off, her voice breaking. It was too late. I turned to Daniel. He was pacing, running his hands through his hair. You expect me to believe that? I demanded. That this is all just some horrible coincidence. He stopped and looked at me, really looked at me. Anna, it's more complicated than you think. Emily wasn't just working for me. She was helping me with something personal. I scoffed. Oh, right. Very personal, apparently. He slammed his hand on the dresser, startling both of us. No, you don't understand. Someone's been following me for months. Watching me. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't know who I could trust. I blinked, taken aback. What are you even talking about? He took a deep breath. Emily has been helping me gather evidence. That's why we came here, not for an affair, Anna. For protection. The words hung in the air, absurd and unbelievable. But there was something in his tone, a mix of fear and urgency, that made me hesitate. Protection from who? I asked quietly. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. From someone in my company. Someone who wants me dead. I froze. The anger that had been fueling me started to fade, replaced by confusion and dread. Daniel, I said slowly, if that's true, then what the hell have you gotten us into? I didn't believe him at first. Someone wants me dead sounded like a line straight out of a bad movie, a desperate excuse from a man caught cheating. But Daniel's eyes weren't the eyes of a liar this time. They were frightened, darting between me and the door like he expected someone to burst in at any second. Still, I wasn't ready to forgive him. I crossed my arms and said coldly, if that's true, then prove it. Show me something, anything, that explains what you're doing here with her. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. All right, but once you see it, you'll understand why I didn't tell you sooner. He walked to the desk, pulled out his sleek black laptop, and opened it. His hands trembled as he entered the password. When the screen lit up, I saw folders scattered across the desktop, most of them labeled with dates and numbers. But one folder, sitting by itself in the corner, caught my eye. Do not open, 10:03. Daniel double-clicked it. Inside were dozens of photos, documents, and screenshots. At first, they looked like random office emails and spreadsheets. But then I saw something that made my heart race, a photo of Daniel's car, parked outside our house, taken from across the street. Another one showed him at his office window. Another, one of me walking our dog last week. I stepped back, my throat dry. Who took these? I don't know, Daniel said, voice low. They started showing up in my email. No name, no message, just pictures. At first, I thought it was some prank. But then, he clicked another file. It was a short video, shaky footage of Daniel leaving work late at night, followed by a black sedan. I felt my stomach twist. This was no prank. Emily spoke up softly. That's why he brought me here, Anna. We were supposed to meet someone tonight, someone who claimed to have information about whoever's been doing this. I turned to her sharply. And you didn't think to tell me any of this? She shook her head. Daniel wanted to keep you safe. Safe. The word felt meaningless now. Nothing about this situation felt safe. I leaned over the laptop again, scrolling through the files. Near the bottom of the list, I found one last video, this one labeled simply, Watch Me. When I clicked it, the screen flickered. Static. Then a distorted voice came through. Greater than, Daniel, you've gone too far. You should have walked away when you had the chance. Now it's too late, for all of you. The screen went black. I turned to Daniel, horrified. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the hotel room phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Daniel slowly picked it up. A voice on the other end said just 2 words, words that made the blood drain from his face. Greater than, they found you. Daniel's face went pale as he gripped the phone. For a few seconds, he didn't say a word, just listened. Then, without warning, he slammed it down and locked the door. Pack your things, he whispered urgently. Now, I froze. What? Daniel, what's going on? Who found you? He didn't answer. He grabbed his laptop, yanked the charging cable from the wall, and started shoving everything into his bag. Emily was trembling near the window, glancing at the parking lot below. Daniel, I shouted. Talk to me. He turned to me, eyes wide with fear. They traced me here. I shouldn't have opened that folder, it must have pinged their network. I didn't even know what that meant. All I knew was that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. 3 sharp, heavy thuds. We all froze. Emily whispered, Daniel, did you tell anyone where we were staying? He shook his head. Another knock. Louder this time. Then a man's voice. Greater than, Mr. Carter. We need to speak with you. Now. Daniel mouthed, don't answer. He motioned for us to stay quiet and turned off the room lights, plunging us into darkness. I could barely hear over the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The knocking stopped. For a few seconds, everything was silent, too silent. Then, the doorknob began to turn. Emily gasped and clutched my arm. Daniel grabbed a heavy lamp and whispered, go to the bathroom, lock the door. Don't come out until I say so. But before I could move, there was a loud bang, the door swung open, slamming against the wall. Two men in dark clothing stepped inside. Their faces were half hidden by caps, their movements precise, rehearsed. One of them pointed at Daniel's laptop. "Where is it?" he demanded. Daniel held his ground. "You're not getting it." Wrong answer. The taller man lunged forward and shoved him hard against the wall. Emily screamed. I didn't even think. I grabbed the nearest object, a glass bottle, and threw it. It shattered against the intruder's shoulder, giving Daniel just enough time to grab my hand and pull me toward the bathroom. We locked the door and backed away, shaking. The sound of footsteps, shouting, and crashing furniture filled the room outside. Then, suddenly, silence. A few seconds later, Daniel pressed his ear to the door. He whispered, "They're gone." But when he slowly opened it, what we saw made my blood run cold. The laptop was gone, and on the wall, written in thick black marker, were 5 chilling words. Greater than, next time, it's her turn. For a long moment, none of us could move. The words scrawled on the wall, next time, it's her turn, seemed to pulse in the dim light, every letter a threat aimed straight at me. I stepped back, shaking. They're talking about me, aren't they? I whispered. Daniel didn't answer right away. His jaw was tight, his breathing shallow. Emily pressed her hands to her mouth, trembling. "We have to get out of here," she said. Daniel finally snapped into motion. "Grab your things. Leave everything else. We can't stay another minute." He shoved what little we had into his backpack and peered out into the hallway. The air felt heavy, too quiet after the chaos. The doorframe was splintered, the carpet littered with broken glass. I followed him cautiously, my heart hammering in my chest. We hurried toward the stairwell instead of the elevator. Daniel insisted it was safer. Each creak of the steps echoed like a gunshot. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching us, waiting. When we reached the ground floor, Daniel motioned for us to stay close. "We'll go out through the back exit near the service dock," he whispered. Less chance of cameras. But just as we turned the corner, I saw movement, 2 men in dark suits entering the lobby from the front doors. I couldn't see their faces clearly, but one of them was carrying something that looked like a small black case. Daniel pulled me back behind a vending machine. "They're not hotel staff," he muttered. "They're here for us." Emily was shaking uncontrollably now. "Daniel, I can't do this." "Quiet," he hissed. The men started scanning the area, talking into earpieces. One of them turned toward the hallway where we were hiding. My stomach dropped. Daniel grabbed my hand and whispered, "Run." We sprinted down the service corridor, the echo of our footsteps mixing with the shouts behind us. A door marked, "Emergency exit, alarm will sound," loomed ahead. Without thinking, I slammed it open. The piercing alarm went off instantly, blaring through the night as we stumbled out into the cold alley behind the hotel. "Keep moving," Daniel shouted. We ran past trash bins and loading docks, my lungs burning. Behind us, I could hear the distant sound of a door slamming. They were coming. Finally, we reached the end of the alley where a streetlight flickered above an empty parking lot. A lone taxi was idling by the curb, the driver smoking a cigarette and scrolling his phone. Daniel waved him down, practically dragging me inside. "Airport," he said breathlessly. "Now, double the fare if you don't ask questions." The driver hesitated, glancing at us, 3 terrified people, one of them barefoot, but he nodded and hit the gas. As the city lights blurred past the window, I turned to Daniel. "You need to tell me the truth. Right now. Who are these people? Why are they after you, after me?" Daniel stared straight ahead, his voice barely audible. "Greater than, because, Anna, you're the only one who has what they want." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What are you talking about?" He turned to look at me, his eyes dark, haunted. "Greater than, you just don't know it yet." The taxi sped through the rain-slick streets, the city lights flashing across Daniel's tense face. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what he'd said. "You're the only one who has what they want. What does that mean?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "What could I possibly have?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He was staring out the window, scanning the traffic behind us. Emily was sitting between us, silent, gripping her phone like a lifeline. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Anna, do you remember your father's old company? The one that shut down after the investigation?" I frowned. "Of course I do." He worked in defense research. But that was years ago. What does that have to do with any of this? Daniel's eyes met mine. Everything. He took a deep breath. Before your father's death, he was working on something classified, something the government never recovered after the lab fire. They thought it was destroyed, but it wasn't. It went missing. And now, someone's convinced you have it. My stomach twisted. That's insane. I was a teenager when he died. I don't have anything. You don't think you do, Daniel said. But your father hid his research somewhere, something only a family member could access. A passcode, maybe an encrypted drive, maybe, you. Me. I whispered. He nodded slowly. He used your name as part of his security protocol. Anna Cole, the code word. I only found out because the people who've been following me kept mentioning you. They think I'm protecting whatever your father left behind. My head was spinning. And you didn't tell me. I was trying to keep you out of it, Daniel said. But when they started sending those photos, I knew it was too late. Emily suddenly leaned forward. Daniel, we're being followed. I turned around. A black sedan was weaving through traffic behind us, headlights fixed on our taxi. Go faster. Daniel shouted to the driver. The driver cursed under his breath and pressed down on the gas. The car lurched forward, tires screeching. The sedan kept pace, closing the distance. Daniel, what did they want exactly? I asked, panicking. He looked at me grimly. They want your father's project, the Helix Key. Whatever it was, it's powerful enough that people are willing to kill for it. The words barely registered before the sedan rammed into the back of our taxi. I screamed as glass shattered. The driver swerved, trying to regain control. Hold on, Daniel yelled. Another hit. The taxi spun, tires screeching, and slammed into a guardrail. The airbags exploded, and everything went white. When the ringing in my ears finally faded, I heard voices outside, men shouting, doors opening. Daniel was slumped over, blood on his forehead. Emily was crying, trying to shake him awake. I looked out through the cracked window. 2 men in black were approaching fast. And for the first time, I realized, this wasn't just about Daniel. They were coming for me. My head was spinning, my vision blurred from the crash. The cold night air rushed through the shattered window, carrying the sound of footsteps, heavy, purposeful, getting closer. Anna, Daniel's voice was weak, barely a whisper. Run, now. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. I'm not leaving you. He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. They're not after me. They want you. Go. The door on my side was jammed. Emily kicked hers open and pulled me out, glass crunching beneath our shoes. I looked back. Daniel was slumped over, trying to reach for something in his jacket pocket, a small black flash drive glinting between his fingers. Before I could go back, headlights flared, the black sedan stopped just yards away. 2 men stepped out, guns drawn. Anna Cole. One of them shouted, "Give us the drive, and no one else gets hurt." Emily froze. "They think you have it," she whispered. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. "But I don't." "Run," she screamed. We sprinted across the road, stumbling over debris and broken glass. The men shouted behind us, the sound of their boots echoing off the concrete. My legs felt like fire, but adrenaline pushed me forward. At the end of the street, a half-lit gas station came into view. I dragged Emily inside, ducking behind a row of shelves. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. I peeked through the window. The sedan was there, parked across the road. Then my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Greater than, check Daniel's pocket. Trust no one. My stomach dropped. I looked at Emily. Her face was pale, eyes wide. Stay here, I said, and before she could stop me, I ran back toward the wrecked taxi. The 2 men were gone. The car doors were open, the street eerily silent. Daniel was still there, barely conscious. I knelt beside him, fighting back sobs. "Daniel, please, hold on." He opened his eyes, blood trickling down his temple. "Anna, listen to me." He pressed the flash drive into my palm. This is what they're after. The Helix Key. Your father didn't destroy it. He hid it, in you. I shook my head, confused and terrified. In me? What are you talking about? Daniel coughed weakly. You were the backup. The biometric encryption. Your DNA, it's the key to unlocking the project. I stared at him, speechless. They can't use it without you, he said. Promise me, Don't trust anyone. Not even Emily. Emily. I whispered. Why? But before he could answer, his eyes went still. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air. Police cars, flashing lights, someone must have called it in. I backed away, clutching the flash drive so tightly it dug into my palm. When I turned around, Emily was standing at the corner of the street, watching me. Her expression was unreadable. Then she smiled, cold, calm, and nothing like the terrified assistant I thought I knew. Greater than, I told you, Anna, she said softly. You were never supposed to find out. And before I could move, she disappeared into the darkness, leaving me alone, kneeling beside my husband's body, the truth burning in my hand. The Helix Key, my father's secret, and the knowledge that the hunt had only just begun.